Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Two topics for this video. The first one, Trump would like to meet with Putin, according to an article from today, March 14th, 2025. That's extraordinary. I wonder when that will happen and what they will talk. So, the first topic. Second one, did you know that the United States and Russia are in talks about Nord Stream deal? So that Nord Stream pipeline that was sabotaged by wants to be bought by the interesting, isn't it? All right, let's go to the first article and the first topic. Russia Today, 14th of March 2025. Trump would like to meet with Putin. Of course, who wouldn't? The Russian president has also expressed openness to discuss a US proposed Ukraine ceasefire with his American counterpart. US President Donald Trump has expressed his readiness to meet with Russian counterpart after Vladimir Putin said Moscow is open to a US proposed ceasefire in Ukraine, while raising a number of questions about implementing it. I made a video yesterday about that. Go and watch it. The conditions under which the Russians agreed the 30-day ceasefire are in the video. All right. The Russian president voiced support for a potential 30-day ceasefire in Ukraine conflict on Thursday, but warned of loopholes and strategic disadvantages, outlining Moscow's concerns about how a truce could be enforced. Trump said that the US has already discussed many details of a potential final agreement with Kiev and is now waiting to see whether or not Russia is there. If, and I'm quoting, Putin put out a very promising statement, says Trump, but it wasn't complete. Well, because it didn't match your demand. And yes, I'd love to meet with him or talk to him, Trump told journalists during a press conference alongside NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte later in the day. So, and I'm quoting, we have been discussing land with Ukraine, pieces of land that would be kept and lost, and all of the other elements of final agreement. You know, we've been discussing concepts of land because you don't want to waste time with a ceasefire. It is not going to mean anything, Trump said. They discussed NATO and being in NATO, and everybody knows what the answer to that is no NATO for Ukraine. They've known that answer for 40 years, in all fairness. All right, so Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, this special envoy is envoy to the Middle East, just so you know. He's Jewish. An extra information, if it helps. Visited the Russian capital on yesterday, to discuss the results of US-Ukraine talks in Saudi Arabia earlier this week and to relay Moscow's position back to Washington. Witkoff was also expected to meet with the Russian president behind closed doors, which they did. They met. And Mr. Witkoff took a message with him and going to bring it to Donald Trump. All right, that's the first one. Well, the sooner the better, but as both Trump and Putin said, if we're going to meet, we're going to meet to do something, not only to in front of the cameras. And that makes sense. But the teams in the background, they are working hard. They negotiate. When you see these guys in Saudi Arabia meeting or all that, okay, that's for us, and that's true. They meet, they talk, they discuss, but the bulk of the negotiations occurs as we speak, that we don't know of, but they are ongoing. So that's the first topic. Let's go to the next one. Russia Today, 13th of March 2025. US and Russia in talks about Nord Stream deal, media. The negotiations on an American purchase of the Russian-owned energy infrastructure has reportedly been ongoing for months. So the Americans said that so they don't have a problem with the Russian oil, gas going into Germany. They just have a problem with who controls it. Is that what it is? So they want to be the middleman. So they're okay with the Russians giving gas to the Germans, which this is Nord Stream pipelines, which they were not, because Trump said Russia can always blackmail you. Well, so that means you want to control it so you can blackmail whomever you want. Basically, they want to have access, say, okay, this is our infrastructure, but then who's going to blow it? You? You don't have to. You're just going to turn it off if you're going to control it. That means you're going to control the flow of a country, Russia, Russian gas, going to another country, which is not United States of America, is Germany, and you are the big daddy over there deciding when you don't do something I want you to do, I'm going to impose sanctions on you, and I just turn it off. And when you don't do what I tell you, Germany, then what do? I just turn it off. Is that how it is? And why would the Americans be interested in something that will not benefit the American gas? Because once the Russians are going to, and they will, deliver again cheap gas to the Germans and to the rest of the Western Europe, let's say to this pipeline under the Baltic Sea, what do you think will happen with the American liquefied natural gas industry? It's going to take a dump, a shit. That's what's going to happen. Why? They can't compete. It's much more expensive. Not only to transport it, to bring it liquefied and all that is more expensive, 3 to 4 times. So what's going on here? We'll find out. So let's see what the article says further. Washington and Moscow are in talks on a major deal that would allow for a resumption of Russian energy exports, German outlet Corrective reported on Thursday, citing its own investigation. A potential agreement could involve American companies purchasing some parts of the Nord Stream pipeline infrastructure. But why do you need from America? Why not Bangladesh? As well as stakes in 3 German refineries currently owned by a subsidiary of the Russian energy giant Rosneft. The discussions have supposedly been ongoing for months and are set to include conditions for the resumption of the Russian oil and gas exports to the EU. The Nord Stream undersea gas pipelines consisted of 2 sets of 2, were key conduits for Russian gas exports to Europe before 2022. The first was capable of delivering up to 55 billion cubic meters of gas a year. The second pipeline, dubbed Nord Stream 2, had a similar capacity, but was never put into service, as Germany refused to certify it shortly before the start of the Russian operation against Ukraine in February 2022. So they shot themselves in the foot. 3 of the 4 Nord Stream pipelines were rendered inoperable in September 2022 in an act of sabotage. No perpetrators have been officially named. We know who those are, although parts of the Western media repeatedly pointed to Ukraine. I don't think so. I think it's across the Atlantic. That's my, baboon assessment. So, what do you think, my friends? What will happen? Well, it seems like the big losers here are the ones who actually are supposed to be the big. They deserve it, which are the Europeans. The Europeans cannot face the Americans. The Europeans cannot face the Russians. And the guys over there shake hands way above the Europeans' heads. And the European heads are bowed down and playing a short one. So what's going on here? It's, I think, Russia and United States of America are not partners. Start with that. Are competitor at best, enemies in reality. Why? Why would they want to share? I will knock you out and take what you have. That's how things work. If you think that, oh no, we just cooperate and freedom and togetherness, okay, that's for, Humpy Dumpy, Snow White, or, Red Riding Hood, or, some good books. No, I'm talking about science fiction books. That's what it is. Life is not like that, and is not going to be like that as long as there are human beings on this planet. Unless you somehow implant something in our brains that would make us machines. Otherwise, we will have different preferences, likes and dislikes. And we can be regimented or attempted to be regimented like the communists tried, like a capitalist, with ideologies, but still it will be a big part of us who will be independently thinking about the world and issues. So they try to right now, redistribute spheres of influence. And the Europeans took it very bad. Why? They allowed themselves to be under the American occupation. Militarily, culturally, economically, and politically. So it's your fault, but the problem is these traitors in charge of Europe allowed that. Hey, but they were democratically elected, so democracy works like that. And you have the media, which works for the same interests that right now make deals about the pipeline, which is not you and I. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.